Ahmedabad, April 9th, 2025. You could feel the energy even through the news. It wasn't just the Gujarat heat either. It felt like the political temperature was just as intense. Rahul Gandhi was at the All India Congress Committee session, and that's like, their big leadership gathering.
Mm.
And, well, from everything we've been seeing, it was shaping up to be, quite a showdown with the Modi government.
Yeah, definitely. A lot of anticipation around that session. And what really stood out to me is just how many different issues Gandhi tackled head on in that one speech. But it wasn't random either. It felt like there was a real strategy in how he connected all those criticisms.
Yeah, and that's exactly why we wanted to, have you here today. We've been digging into it, looking at the reports and the analyses, so we could give everyone a clear idea of what Gandhi was really saying, the context behind it all, and why it matters. Think of it like a shortcut to understanding the big political debates he sparked that day, without having to sort through all the daily news yourself.
Yeah, because keeping up with all the political back and forth, it could be a lot. So yeah, our goal is to kind of pull out the most important parts, the key arguments, give you the insights you need to get the bigger picture.
And trust me, there were a lot of headlines. But when you cut through the noise, Gandhi was talking about some really big issues. The whole controversy over the Waqf Amendment Act, his push for a nationwide caste census, some serious accusations about how Dalits are being treated, his view of the Indian Constitution, even some stuff about the U.S. and Bangladesh on the economic front. I mean, it was a packed session.
Yeah, he was. And it's interesting, when you step back and see how all these different points connect, it kind of builds a bigger picture, at least from Gandhi's perspective, about where government policy is headed and the ideology behind it all.
Okay, so let's get into it. Starting with the Waqf Act. This is a pretty new law, and Gandhi didn't hold back. He called it an attack on the Constitution and freedom of religion. Those are pretty strong words. What's
Yeah.
the main concern here?
Well, what's interesting is how he's framing this whole thing. It's not just about managing Muslim charitable endowments, which is what the act is supposed to do. He's saying it could be a first step towards targeting other minority religions too. He even used that Trojan horse analogy, a pretty striking image. His worry is that this focus on the Waqf Act might eventually extend to Christians and Sikhs as well. And that idea, of threats to minority religions, it's a sensitive issue in India, historically. So understanding that history adds another layer to what Gandhi is doing.
And to back this up, he even mentioned that article from Organizer, the one that was taken down later, a publication that's, often linked to the RSS viewpoint. It's kind of amazing how a piece of writing that's not even public anymore became such a big part of his argument. It's like he was using it as evidence, saying it showed the real long-term goals of certain groups.
Exactly. He made it seem like that deleted article was undeniable proof. Like it gave a glimpse behind the scenes at a larger plan. And the fact that it was removed, well, that definitely raises questions. Was it a mistake? Did it reveal something they didn't want out there? Whatever the reason, Gandhi used it to reinforce this idea of a hidden agenda.
And it's not like these worries are coming out of nowhere, right? There have been protests against the act around the country, people worried about the government interfering too much in religious affairs. But then the government and Prime Minister Modi have said it's about making things more transparent and efficient.
Right? That's the core of the disagreement. The government says there needs to be better regulation, streamlining how Waqf properties are managed, curbing mismanagement. But Gandhi's response, when he said, this isn't about clarity, it's about control, that really gets to the heart of his skepticism. He thinks it's about consolidating power, more influence over religious institutions. And, when you think about what Waqf boards do, managing these charitable trusts according to Islamic law, the amendments and the concerns they've raised, it highlights that tension between state control and religious freedom.
Okay, let's move on to something else that seems really important to Gandhi. The push for a nationwide caste census. He's been very vocal about this, like it's almost a personal mission for him.
Yeah, his support for the caste census is definitely a key part of his platform now. The way he talked about it in Ahmedabad, promising to make it happen quickly, especially compared to how he thinks Modi might react. It really showed how important it is to him. It's not just a policy idea anymore, it's a symbol in his political message. The real point here is that it's not just about counting people, it's about power and resources. And how they're distributed among historically marginalized groups.
And his argument keeps coming back to needing solid data on India's population, right? With over 1.4 billion people, it's hard to know how to address inequalities and make sure help reaches the people who need it.
Exactly. He says without reliable data on caste, it's impossible to really target those inequalities and ensure that government programs are effective. The sheer size of India's population makes it hard to grasp. So the caste census, in his view, provides a more detailed and specific understanding of the country's social structure.
He even brought up the caste survey that was done in Telangana when the Congress was in charge. And he highlighted that statistic that something like 90% of the population there is OBCs, Dalits, minorities, and Adivasas. That's a pretty significant number.
It is. And how Gandhi interprets that data is crucial. He uses it to say that those communities which make up such a huge part of the population deserve a fair share of opportunities and resources. And that directly challenges the current power dynamics and how reservations work now.
And then there's that accusation that Modi and the RSS are stalling the nationwide caste census on purpose because they're afraid of what the data will show. That's a pretty serious claim.
It is. And it fits into his broader narrative that the government is pushing a specific social and political agenda instead of focusing on development for everyone. He's saying they're hiding inconvenient truths and framing opposition to the census as an act of injustice against these large communities.
And he didn't stop there. He even hinted at the possibility of going over the 50% reservation limit. Again, using Telangana as an example. That's a very sensitive issue with potential legal and social consequences, especially when you consider the Supreme Court's role in setting that limit.
Definitely. The 50% cap, it's been a long-standing boundary both legally and politically. By suggesting that it could be exceeded based on what surveys like the one in Telangana show, he's signaling a willingness to advocate for some major changes in how reservations work.
Now, moving to a more sensitive topic, Gandhi's claims of anti-Dalit bias within the BJP. He brought up that incident in Alwar, Rajasthan, where a Ram temple was purified. It's a really powerful and disturbing image.
It is, and Gandhi used it very effectively to make his point, drawing attention to the act of purifying a temple after a Dalit Congress leader had been there. He presented it as clear evidence of caste prejudice disguised as a religious ritual.
And his broader argument is that this incident is connected to a bigger issue. He's saying the BJP and RSS are fundamentally opposed to true equality. So it's not just about one event, it's about a deeper ideological conflict.
Right. He's trying to paint a picture of systemic bias, saying this incident is a symptom of a wider problem within these organizations. It's a powerful accusation that's meant to resonate with communities that have faced discrimination historically.
Okay, let's talk about his view on the Constitution. He described it as having 1,000 years of thought behind it, and he connected it to all sorts of historical figures. It was a pretty interesting and maybe unexpected perspective.
He was deliberately trying to make the Constitution more than just a legal document that was written 75 years ago. He's presenting it as the result of a long and rich intellectual and spiritual heritage in India. And by mentioning figures from across centuries, Buddha Guru Nanak Gandhi Ambedkar Patel, he's trying to give it this deeper historical and moral significance.
And then he brought up those historical claims about the RSS supposedly burning copies of the Constitution and how they were initially hesitant to salute the flag. Those are strong statements that carry a lot of weight if they're true.
Those historical points, whether or not every detail is completely accurate, they serve a clear purpose in his argument. He's trying to establish a historical pattern, portraying the Congress as the one that's always defended constitutional values, contrasted with what he sees as skepticism or even opposition to those values from the BJP and RSS.
So basically, he's saying that the current political landscape is a fight between these constitutional ideals, which he believes the Congress stands for, and the BJP and RSS's alleged desire for control and favoritism towards certain businesses. He even specifically mentioned Ambani and Adani.
Yeah, that's the stark contrast he's making. It's like a battle for the soul of India, the principles of the Constitution versus what he calls an authoritarian and crony capitalist agenda.
And he even used that classic underdog line saying, they've got the money, the muscle, the media, but we've got the truth and the people. It's a common tactic, but it probably works well with his supporters.
Absolutely. It's a way to energize his base.
Yeah?
To make them feel like they're fighting for what's right, even though the odds are stacked against them. It's a narrative that can be really effective in politics, creating a sense of unity and purpose.
Now, switching gears again, Gandhi also talked about some interesting economic and international things, like mentioning an economic storm connected to former President Trump. That definitely got my attention.
It was a bit of a surprise, bringing in the global perspective. His reference to Trump's potential 26% tariff on Indian imports.
Yeah.
And those kind of sarcastic remarks about how Modi might react. It was clearly aimed at challenging the image of Modi as a strong and influential world leader.
Yeah, that loss of the 56-inch chest comment, that was definitely memorable. And then he linked the extended parliament session to this whole thing, saying it was a way to distract people from the tariff issue. That's quite a theory.
It is speculation, but it fits with his idea that the government is more focused on controlling the news and looking good than on actually dealing with important problems. He's suggesting that they extended Parliament to distract from the potential economic fallout of these tariffs, and that raises questions about how transparent the government is and what their real priorities are.
And he even mentioned Modi's meeting with Bangladesh's chief advisor and those alleged adverse remarks from Mr. Yunus about India. It seems like he's trying to weaken that strongman image on the international stage, too. It felt like he was attacking Modi on multiple fronts, both within India and globally.
Right. He's trying to show that there's a difference between the government's strong words about international relations and what's actually happening, especially when dealing with powerful countries and important neighbors.
Finally, he talked about the Congress's own plan, emphasizing the need to strengthen their district Congress committees at the local level and focusing on ideology and the love of the people. It sounded like a call for rebuilding the party from the ground up.
It does. The Congress has faced some serious organizational challenges in recent years, so focusing on strengthening their local presence makes sense. And by highlighting ideology and public support as their strengths, he's trying to shift the focus away from just trying to match the BJP's resources. Instead, it's about a more grassroots approach to politics, based on values.
And his closing message was all about inclusivity, saying that India belongs to everyone regardless of their community, religion, or language. It's a message that's been central to the Congress for a long time.
Right, it's a reaffirmation of the party's core principles, secularism and inclusivity. And it's often presented as a direct contrast to what they see as the BJP's divisive rhetoric. It's about appealing to a wide range of people across Indian society.
So to sum it all up, Gandhi's speech in Ahmedabad covered a lot of ground, from the details of the Waqf Act to the big principles of the Constitution and even international trade. It was a really comprehensive speech.
It was. And like you said, these weren't just random political points. They get into some fundamental questions about religious freedom, social justice, how we interpret our own constitution, and India's place in the global economy.
Exactly. So as you're thinking about all of this, I want you to consider which of Gandhi's arguments really resonated with you. What could these different perspectives mean for the future of India? What about our democracy, social harmony, and our position in the world?
We hope this deep dive has given you a more complete and nuanced understanding of this really significant moment in Indian politics. By breaking down the key issues that Rahul Gandhi raised, we want to give you the insights you need to navigate the complexities of the current political climate.
Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, thanks everyone.
And we'll see you on the next deep dive.
See you later.